The Salinas mansion never slept. For almost a year now, every night had been a silent, exhausting hell. Two little boys, barely 2 years old, Matias and Tiago, identical twins, cried without pause from the moment the sun went down until the sky lit up again. Their cries weren't just noise. They were a wordless plea, a raw manifestation of an absence they themselves couldn't fully understand. And their father, Leonardo Salinas, the magnate who had built his fortune from scratch in the ruthless hotel industry, could do absolutely nothing about it. If you're watching this, don't leave. What happened in this house was more than just a story of sad children and a broken father. It was a twist no one expected. And if you've ever felt trapped, like there's no way out, this story is for you. Hit like, subscribe, and stay until the end, because what you're about to see will touch you. "I can't do this anymore, Mr. Salinas," said Mariella, the fourth nanny to quit in less than 2 months. "They don't sleep, they won't let me touch them, they won't look at me, they're trapped in something I don't know how to reach." Leonardo stood in the kitchen doorway, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled shirt, stained with what looked like carrot puree. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He barely reacted as Mariella walked past him with her bag slung over her shoulder, eyes red with frustration. Upstairs, on the second floor, the synchronized cries of the twins pierced through the thick walls as if the house itself were in pain. Leonardo closed his eyes for just a second. Only one, and he thought, "I'm falling apart." It was 3 a.m. when he called Teresa, his personal assistant. "Leonardo, are you okay?" she answered groggily, half asleep. "I need a nanny, today, this morning. I don't care if she comes from Mars." "Another one? There are no more premium agencies available in Mexico City. We've exhausted every list." "Then what do you suggest?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "My niece, she's been living with me for 2 weeks. She came from Puebla. She has experience with small children. She doesn't have the resume you usually want, but does she know how to calm down 2 creatures who scream from sunset to sunrise?" "I don't know," Teresa admitted honestly. "But she has something, a calmness that's unusual for her age. Maybe you should give it a try." Leonardo hung up without another word. At exactly 8 a.m., the butler announced her arrival. Leonardo didn't greet her. He couldn't. He was on the floor of the twins' room, one boy on each side of his body, both crying with clenched fists, red faces, and swollen eyelids. His shirt was soaked with someone else's tears. "Mr. Salinas," said Teresa from the doorway. "This is Alejandra." Leonardo lifted his head, and he saw her. She was not what he expected. None of the previous nannies looked anything like her. Alejandra Morales was short, slim, dressed in simple jeans, a plain white cotton blouse, and a wool sweater that clashed with the mansion's cold marble floors and vast glass windows. Her hair, tied back in a long braid, fell over her left shoulder. She wore no makeup. She carried no attitude. She had something else, serenity. She didn't ask questions. She didn't offer her resume. She didn't smile. She just walked in. She crouched down beside Leonardo, just inches from the twins, and whispered, "Hello, Matias. Hello, Tiago. My name is Alejandra. I didn't come to bother you. I just came to listen." The children didn't react immediately. Matias was still sobbing, his body trembling. Tiago, quieter, stared blankly at the ceiling. Then Alejandra did something no one else had ever done. She sat down on the floor, not on a chair, not at the edge of the bed. She sat right in the middle of the chaos, among the broken toys, the scattered stuffed animals, and the crusted baby food. And she began to sing. It wasn't a lullaby, it was a wordless melody, soft and rhythmic, as if she knew exactly the kind of sound those children needed to hear, as if her voice connected to something beyond understanding. Leonardo didn't move, he just watched her. Matias stopped crying, just a little. Tiago slowly turned his head toward her. Alejandra didn't look at them directly. She sang with her eyes closed, as if singing for herself. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The twins didn't stop crying completely, but their cries were no longer the heart-wrenching wails they had been. They had softened into gentle, intermittent sobs. For the first time in months, the room felt different. It felt possible. Leonardo swallowed hard. "What did you just do?" Alejandra opened her eyes. "Nothing special," she replied. "I just gave them a rhythm." The day began differently. At 8:30 in the morning, the house no longer felt like a battlefield. For the first time in weeks, there had been no crying at dawn. Leonardo woke up startled, not by the usual wailing, but by silence. He sat up in bed, confused. It took several seconds for him to process that it was still daytime, and that the house wasn't trembling with anguish. He went down to the dining room, his face unsettled by the unfamiliar quiet. He wasn't wearing a suit or a watch, just a gray t-shirt and loose pants he would never have worn outside his room. When he walked in, he saw them. Matias and Tiago sat in their high chairs, bibs around their necks, chewing on pieces of banana and avocado toast. Alejandra sat across from them, holding a cup of tea in her hands. She wasn't talking to them. She just watched silently, with an expression that seemed to say, "I'm here. Take your time." "Did they eat?" Leonardo asked without thinking, as if the voice didn't belong to him. Alejandra looked at him, without standing. "They're eating. They like to chew slowly." Matias looked at him and smiled, a clumsy little smile, with bits of banana still in his mouth. Leonardo felt something he hadn't in a long time, relief. "What did you do last night?" he pressed. "What they needed," she replied. "There's no magic formula, just time, attention, and listening to what they don't know how to say." After breakfast, Alejandra took them out to the garden. Leonardo followed at a distance, not knowing why. He stood behind the living room curtain, watching. It was like seeing a different film. She sat on the grass. She didn't spread a blanket. She didn't bring out expensive toys. She picked up 2 flat stones, tapped them gently together, and said, "This is the sound horses make when they run." Matias came closer. Then Tiago. They sat beside her. They began to imitate her. "Now you're the horse," Alejandra said, pointing at Matias. "And you," turning to Tiago, "you're the one chasing him. Careful, don't let him catch you." The twins stood up. They ran through the garden, clumsy but happy. They fell, got up, laughed. They shouted incomprehensible things in the language of 2-year-olds, but for the first time, without tears. Leonardo couldn't believe it. At noon, when Teresa passed through the dining room to check some folders, she found him sitting in front of his laptop, not typing a single thing. "Everything okay?" "The house is at peace," he said, as if announcing breaking news. "I told you she had something special." Leonardo closed the laptop. He leaned his elbows on the table. He spoke without lifting his gaze. "She doesn't seem like a professional, because she isn't, but she has intuition and heart." "And you think that's enough?" Teresa looked at him. She didn't soften her tone. "Did the diplomas of the other 4 nannies do you any good?" Silence. That night, Alejandra created a bedtime routine. She didn't ask permission. She simply dimmed the lights at 7, turned off all the devices in the living room, and prepared a warm bath with lavender essence. "Rituals matter," she explained when Leonardo came closer to watch. "It's not about hygiene. It's about repetition, about knowing what comes next." She bathed them patiently. No songs, no toys. She dried their hair with a soft towel, as if they were glass. She dressed them into the cotton pajamas, not the branded ones hanging in the closet, but simpler ones she'd asked Teresa to get that afternoon. Then she sat between the 2 cribs with a book in her hand. She didn't read aloud. She just murmured, scattered phrases, images, sounds. The twins didn't cry, not once. Leonardo watched from the doorway, just as he had the night before, without stepping in. When their breathing grew rhythmic, almost synchronized, Alejandra closed the book. She stood up quietly and walked toward him. "They'll wake up several times," she said, "but less and less each night. If you let me stay, I can help." Leonardo looked at her with a mixture of disbelief and something else. "Why are you doing this?" Alejandra held his gaze. "Because they need it." "And you?" "So do I." The next morning, Leonardo woke up at 6:30. Not because the twins were crying, but because his body, out of habit, still dragged him out of bed before the usual chaos. He sat in the dark, waiting for the wails that always came. But they didn't. At 6:40, he got up. He walked barefoot down the hallway, held his breath before opening the door to the children's room, and froze. Matias was asleep with his thumb in his mouth. Tiago was hugging his stuffed animal, the same one he used to throw on the floor in tantrums. Both under their blankets, no signs of distress. In the corner, on a folding mattress, Alejandra slept sitting up, her head leaning against the wall, a thin blanket draped over her shoulders. She didn't move, but her breathing was calm, as if that room was her natural place. Leonardo closed the door quietly. Breakfast was peaceful. The twins sat on a rug Alejandra had brought from the playroom. They were eating banana and oatmeal cookies dipped in warm milk. The only sounds were their occasional giggles when one reached into the other's bowl. Leonardo couldn't resist. He sat on the floor too. "Is this what you do every day?" Alejandra looked at him without surprise. "No, only with them." "And why not with others?" "Because they don't need me. These two do." Leonardo stayed silent. The twins offered him a piece of cookie. He accepted. The taste was simple, honest. That whole day, Leonardo found excuses not to leave. He canceled 2 calls, postponed a meeting. He didn't say why. He just wanted to stay close, to watch how Alejandra spoke to the children without using big words, how she showed them dry leaves, smooth stones, the texture of wood, how she pointed out the birds in the garden, how her fingers moved to the rhythm of a song only they seemed to understand, and how they looked at her, with trust, with devotion, with love. At 5 in the afternoon, while they were having tea on the terrace, Leonardo couldn't hold back anymore. "What did you see in them that no one else did?" Alejandra thought before answering. "Pain." "Pain?" "Yes, but not the pain of loss, the pain of disconnection. They were surrounded by people trying to fix them, when all they needed was someone to sit with them, someone not pushing them to be okay so quickly." Leonardo gripped his cup tightly. "I feel the same way, you know. Like everyone wants me to get better, to go back to who I was before, but I don't know how." Alejandra looked at him. She didn't interrupt. "I lost my wife in an accident, a crash on the highway, a drunk driver. She was with the kids, but they were asleep in the back seat. Their lives were saved because they were asleep. Hers wasn't." Alejandra lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. You don't have to say that." "I didn't say it out of obligation. I said it because I mean it." There was a long silence. "Have you lost someone?" he asked, not knowing why. "Yes," she answered, "but mine was different. It wasn't an accident. It was a choice." Leonardo looked at her strangely, but didn't ask more. That night, when he heard Alejandra's voice again in the twins' room, murmuring an invented story about an owl afraid to fly, he realized something. This woman wasn't just helping his children, she was helping him. Saturday dawned with a clear sky and a silence so absolute that Leonardo woke up alarmed. He got dressed in less than 3 minutes and went straight to the twins' room. They weren't there. The room was tidy. The cribs were empty. The blankets folded, the lights off. "Gabriel?" he called. The butler appeared from the hallway. "Miss Alejandra took the children to the garden half an hour ago." Leonardo went downstairs immediately. In the garden, he found a scene that left him frozen. Alejandra was sitting on a checkered blanket, barefoot, legs crossed. Beside her was a box of crayons and several sheets of paper. Matias and Tiago, in cloth diapers, held thick crayons and drew on large sheets while she narrated something in a soft, melodic voice. "This is Matias riding a dragon," she said, "and this is Tiago flying with his hero's cape." The children babbled syllables, laughed, and smeared colors on their arms. Leonardo approached silently. He sat to the side, crossing his legs as well. Alejandra greeted him with a glance and nothing more. Matias handed him a crayon. "Should I draw?" "Draw," Alejandra said. "But don't think, just feel." Leonardo took the red crayon and began tracing shapeless lines. He felt ridiculous. But then Matias clapped, and Tiago pointed at his drawing enthusiastically. And then he laughed. He laughed like he hadn't in over a year. They spent the entire morning in the garden. Then they had lunch in the kitchen, lentil soup, toasted bread, and fruit. Leonardo stayed with them the whole time. In the mid-afternoon, while the children napped, he and Alejandra stayed on the porch. Silence, tea, and a gentle breeze. "I didn't think you could feel this again," he said, not looking at her. "This? Peace, calm, laughter. Of course you can. You just can't buy it." Leonardo turned to look at her. "You look different today." "Different how?" "I don't know. Free." Alejandra lowered her gaze, then spoke. "Because today, for the first time, I didn't feel like I was working. I felt like living." Her comment sent a pang through Leonardo's chest. And is that good or bad? It's dangerous, she replied, without changing her tone. Because when you start living, you also start fearing the loss of what you have. Silence. Leonardo swallowed. Do you want to come with us to the zoo tomorrow? Alejandra looked at him in surprise. Us? Me and the children. Me, as in you, as Alejandra. She thought for a moment. Yes, I'll go. Leonardo smiled but said nothing. Neither did she. But both knew that something was changing inside them. Slowly, inevitably. Chapultepec Zoo was crowded. Families everywhere. Children running. Street vendors selling balloons and cotton candy. The thick air scented with sun and earth. Leonardo drove himself, with Matias asleep in the back seat, head tilted, and Tiago clutching a plush giraffe. Alejandra sat in the passenger seat. She wore a simple blue dress, knee-length thin-strapped sandals, her hair tied back with a colorful scarf. She wore little makeup. Yet, when Leonardo glanced at her from the corner of his eye, it seemed he had never seen anything more beautiful. He said nothing. He just parked in a general area, far from the exclusive lot he was used to. Here? Alejandra asked, surprised. Today, I'm not Mr. Salinas, he replied. Today, I'm just a dad. Inside the zoo, the twins laughed non-stop. They ran from cage to cage, pointed at the monkeys, marveled at the tigers, imitated the elephant's sounds. Alejandra guided them calmly, holding their hands without forcing anything. Leonardo followed, smiling uncontrollably. In a green area, they had a picnic. Alejandra had prepared tuna sandwiches, fruit cut into animal shapes, and hibiscus-flavored water. This is better than any fancy restaurant, Leonardo said, chewing. Food tastes different when it's shared, she replied. The sun was lowering when the four of them sat on the grass, watching the birds by the lake. Thank you for coming, he said, not looking directly at her. Thank you for inviting me. I don't invite many people into my life. Almost no one, really. Alejandra smiled, but said nothing. There's a gala next Friday, he said suddenly. It's a charity event, formal, with suits, ties, speeches. I want you to come, as my guest. She turned to him, puzzled. As your guest? Yes, not as a nanny, as Alejandra. She lowered her gaze. That wouldn't be appropriate. Why not? Because I work for you. Your children see me as someone who takes care of them, not someone who puts on heels to walk beside you. That's your definition, not theirs. It's not that simple, she said softly. You come from a world where image matters, where how you appear is more important than who you are. I come from a different one. And what does that matter? It matters if you're going to put me in a room full of people who will look at me like I don't belong. Because I don't. Leonardo studied her closely. He was about to reply, but was interrupted. A tall, dark-haired man in a denim shirt with a stern face approached. Alejandra, she froze. Raúl, what are you doing here? Leonardo instinctively stood up. You came to the city and didn't answer my calls, the man said, not greeting anyone. Your mother is sick, your father doesn't sleep, and you're out here with children? I'm working, she said firmly. And this? The man said, pointing at Leonardo. Who is he? My boss. Is that what he told you? Raúl spat the words with contempt. You left to have freedom, and now you're raising someone else's children. You haven't changed a thing, Alejandra. You're not here because of my family, she replied, her voice cold. You're here because you hate that I chose something you weren't. Raúl took a step toward her. Leonardo intervened. I think it's time for you to leave. The man looked at him with disdain, but said nothing more. He walked away. Alejandra remained silent for several minutes. Tiago, as if sensing the tension, curled up in her lap. Matias, still asleep, clutched his stuffed animal. Are you okay? Leonardo asked. No, she said, but I will be. Leonardo didn't press further. He looked at her and knew that behind that calmness was a story he still didn't know. But he also knew something else. He could no longer imagine his home, his life, without her. The next afternoon, Leonardo couldn't concentrate on anything. He tried reviewing contracts, returning calls, even working out in the private gym in the basement. Nothing worked. The image of Raúl and Alejandra's words kept spinning in his mind like a dull, constant noise. At 5, Teresa knocked on his office door. Do you have a minute? Leonardo looked up and nodded. She closed the door behind her, serious. I know you saw Raúl yesterday. Yes. And I also saw the way you looked at Alejandra when they arrived. I don't blame you. But you need to understand one thing. She's not going to tell you, but she's considering leaving. Leonardo felt a punch to the chest. What? Her family is pressuring her. Raul didn't come by chance. He came to find her, to remind her that she could still return to her place. And what place is that supposed to be? The one others chose for her, the one she escaped from to avoid living. But Alejandra has deep loyalties and fear. If she feels her presence here is inappropriate, or if she thinks you see her as confusing, she'll leave. Leonardo stood up. Where is she? In the greenhouse, with the children asleep, thinking. Leonardo left without another word. He found her sitting on a stone bench, looking toward the rose bushes. Her elbows rested on her knees, her head slightly bowed. She looked tired, but serene. May I? She wasn't surprised. Yes. He sat beside her. Teresa told me you're thinking about leaving. I'm considering all my options. Why? Because this, she gestured broadly toward the house, the garden, him, wasn't in my plans. I came to work, to save money, to breathe, not to get confused. And are you confused? Alejandra looked at him. Her eyes were wet but steady. Not because of you, because of me, because I thought I knew who I was. And here I feel like someone else. And that's frightening. What if that someone else is the real you? She looked away. Raul represents everything I left behind, but he also represents everything that still binds me. And us? You make me feel like I belong, but I don't know if that's real or an illusion. Leonardo leaned closer. Do you think what's between us is an illusion? No, but I also don't know if it's safe. Neither do I, he admitted. But I know I need you here, not just for the children, for me, because with you, I feel like I can breathe again. Alejandra blinked. A tear ran down her cheek without her wiping it away. Don't ask me to stay for you. No, stay for you, he said. Stay because this can be your place too, not borrowed, not imposed, chosen. She closed her eyes for a second and took a deep breath. Give me time. Leonardo nodded. All the time you need. They stayed in silence, listening to the wind among the trees. And even though they didn't touch, even though they said nothing more, in that moment, something changed. Alejandra didn't leave that night. And Leonardo, for the first time, slept with hope. 3 days later, just before sunset, Leonardo returned from the office earlier than planned, not by chance. He had spent the past hours thinking about only one thing. If Alejandra left, not because she wanted to, but because she felt she had to, then he had to show her that her place wasn't an obligation. It was a choice, a real possibility. Entering the house, the butler told him they were in the yard. He crossed the hallway without announcing himself, and he saw them. Matias and Tiago were in an inflatable pool, splashing happily under Alejandra's watch. She wore a loose white linen dress, wet up to the waist from the splashes. Her hair was casually tied back. She laughed as she showed them how to fill a bucket with a sponge. Leonardo said nothing. He just watched. When she saw him, she smiled. A different smile, not routine, not polite. A smile that said, I knew you'd come. That night, after bathing the children, they all had dinner together in the garden. Roast chicken, rice with vegetables, lemon water. Nothing sophisticated, nothing luxurious, everything perfect. Later, when the children fell asleep effortlessly, Leonardo waited for Alejandra on the terrace. Have you decided? He asked directly. She nodded. Yes, I'm staying. Leonardo held his breath. For them? For me, she said firmly. Because here I found something I didn't know I was looking for. Because for the first time, I feel rooted. Leonardo approached slowly. And if I told you I found something with you too? Don't tell me, she whispered. Show me, day by day, not with words. He nodded. There were no kisses, no promises. Just a presence, steady and real, shared. That night, Alejandra didn't sleep in the service room. She slept on the sofa, in the twins' room, with a light blanket, with a calm smile. And Leonardo slept with the certainty that, for the first time, life made sense again. Thank you for reading to the end of this story. If it touched your heart, if you've ever felt that love can heal even the deepest wounds, like, subscribe, and share this video. And tell me in the comments, what do you think? Can True Love Overcome Social Differences? I'll be reading below.